friends! Welcome to the Devlog for hot dogs, horseshoes, and hand grenades. We're going to start off as always with a quick sound check. Make sure speakers aren't up too high. Wonderful. So what have we got for you this week? Well, long awaited. I know you've all been screaming for him enough in my YouTube comments for months. We finally have the first ready to play with field test of doors. That's right. After finishing up update 100, I tend to have a little bit of like leftover inertia and energy before I completely crash back into a pile of goo, and I decided to throw that into getting essentially the door systems that I had already showed you a while back into just stable and resettable enough to test in a scene. So let us get ourselves some door related tools and let's play around with them. Let's see here, we'll put you over my shoulder. We'll play with the explosives in a second. Grab shotgun shell. Wonderful. So let us first take a look at what we have and then let's see what they do. So we've got a little door resetting panel here. You can just click this button to reset these two doors. There aren't any other settings. Eventually, as I test these more, there'll be more settings here to spawn different types of doors, possibly to try out different setting combinations based on what I need to test. We've actually got two different types of doors here. One of them is our deadbolt door here that we can open up the deadbolt, open up the doorknob, and walk on in, boop, and go on through here. Wonderful. Let's take our key back out here. Let's shut the door. There we go. Shut the deadbolt. Wonderful. And then over here we've got one that is not actually unlockable from the outside to test and play around with that. It is a sliding latch door like so, and you can see when it is shut, if we pull it open, there's a little bit of forward and back play there, and as I said, this is just to test things like physics tolerances and things like that. So yeah, so on to the part. I know you're not just here for me to open and shut doors. You want to see us just brutalize these things. So the first sort of addition, brand new thing that you haven't seen is that I have put together a door-specific decal system. As I realized that between shooting the doors and hitting the doors with the axe, not having any sort of visual indication of anything happening prior to the door going from its whole mode to its cracked mode felt kind of junk. And those decals, these only work on static environment for a host of reasons, just the way the system is set up. So I needed to do something bespoke for the doors, not unlike how the Sosigs have their own decal system. So if we shoot this door, we can see we've got some cool little bullet hole damage decals. They're actually 3D. Obviously, we can't see through the hole. That's not something that technically it's possible doing like clip rendering and things like that, but it becomes a nightmare to manage. You have to like deal with the edge cases of like a hole in front of another hole. It's not worth the insane performance and infrastructure costs. But a mesh decal, on the other hand, absolutely is. Each door and door shard has an internal sort of maximum decal count. So if I keep shooting the door, obviously hard to demonstrate with a 7-shot pistol, but eventually you will see the door will begin to... Oh, we're not quite at the limit yet. Come on. There we go. We can see it begin to recycle its decals, and that's just so this doesn't become an abject performance disaster. The hardest part, which you'll see in a moment, was what I had to do to make it so that when this door actually shattered, existing decals on the door actually transferred over to its shards. This stunk. But before we get to that, we're going to go over to this door. We're going to take our trusty axe out so you can see a couple new things. I'm going to give it a bit of a light hit. Oh, hard enough hit there. So we can see I've made sort of like a little decal. It's not amazing, but I needed something for essentially a cutting hit. Come on. That looked decent. There we go. you'll notice we have a new fracture pattern. Our resident door artist basically reauthored the fracture patterns for the door and actually made a bunch of variants for them, so they're not all the same. But one of the key sort of differences here is that when in this fractured form, you'll notice there are geometric overlaps between most of them. So instead of feeling like a bunch of floating pieces when the door is just sitting here, it feels like we've got sort of major cracks, but it still feels like one big object. I also reauthored the physics collision via trial and error to find good tolerance distances, so you will now notice that the sort of like stretchy connection that is between the pieces is more stable, it's less glitchy, and I was able to actually add a few more of those connections, which just, I don't know about you, but that makes this feel way more satisfying to tear through. Oh, that is a blast. That is just, I could do that all day. So yeah, so as you can see here now that we see it cracking, those decals transferred. Not all of them. The ones that are in the little intersections don't actually cast down to the shards, but a majority of them do, and so that helps give you more visual continuity when we're transitioning states of doors, even though these are completely two different sets of, it's a visual trick. These are completely different objects. Perfect. Just... wonderful. So yeah, so let's respawn our doors here, and they pop back into place. I've tweaked a number of things in regards to their damage model. This is not at all final. What you will basically find is that while you can eventually get the door from its whole state down to its cracked state with just projectile damage, it takes a lot, so it isn't really the ideal way to do it. As demonstrated with the prior test, we if we're behind a locked door that we can't get through, we want to bring the gun up to roughly where its hardware is, like so, and smash it open like so. We can also take out the hinges. Oh, I don't think I got it there. I think I missed. Let's try again. There we go. And then that door's just a pushover at that point. Oh, you'll also notice here, this is like a blunt decal that is also made. It's a little difficult to trigger. Let's see. There we go. So we're not doing that much damage to the door for sure, trying to butt smack it, but I'm pretty sure you could eventually butt smack your way through a door. So, I actually don't know one of the things I've been trying to figure out, right, is that, like, here we have a door to get through, and it's got a lock on the other side of it. I have no visual indication where it is, and in real life, I wouldn't. It would make a bad lock if so, but I'm not quite sure if it should you just have to learn where it is? It's not there. Let's play the where is the lock game. Nope. 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 This is the worst guessing game ever. Where on earth is it? Huh. Oh, wow. I seriously just missed it? Are you kidding me? Gotta space our shots differently. That doesn't seem to actually be damaging that hit zone. I don't actually know yet if that is a bug. Let me see if it breaks from this side. Oh. Well, still some testing to do. As I said, part of the reason why I wanted to put these in this scene is to actually figure out what is working as intended. What do you attempt to do that feels obvious to you that doesn't work how you anticipate it, and seeing if I can work some of those things into my simulation. Not everything will be possible, I assure you, but I'm sure some of it will be. Let's empty that. Let's get one of these. So one thing that is still very much work in progress, where I am not getting the behavior that I want yet, is that some of my two-stage explosives do really fun things to the door that I like, and some of them don't. So like in the case of our Swag 12 shell, let's get back further. If we fire at the center of the door, that'll knock it down to shattered, but honestly, part of me really feels like the center should really blow out, and I'm technically passing off a bunch of damage to those center parts, but it doesn't seem to be, So in that case, those disconnected, but the others didn't. Oh, let's back up. Yeah. Not as impactful as I want it to be. I kind of want it to be so that if an explosion hits the center of one, sort of like we get the transition to crack and then a couple pieces go flying backward, because that's just more cinematic and fun. Great on a second explosion. So, yeah, as I said, lots still to do with them. Let's grab our C4 here. Do we have a spare pocket? Yes, we do. Yep, so if I just place... These sadly will not stick to the door because they can only stick to static things. I'm going to see if I can make them stick to dynamic things, but that might be, might create some joint issues. But if I just toss this on the ground in front of the door, you'll see the problem still. Where we not only get a shatter, but the sort of follow-through damage has disconnected a bunch of these. It's not still just one piece. But yeah, as I said, I'm not getting a really good sort of pop backwards. Whereas if we come over here and grab ourselves like an RPG, we get a usually a significantly better result. Come back here, give ourselves some distance. Bam! Just obliterates it. Ah, wonderful. Let's do one more of those. Actually, you know what? Just to actually test something, I'm gonna do one against the ground in front of it. See what happens. Nope, still just utterly obliterates it. So clearly, this is either just an explosion damage intensity issue, or something along those lines that I need to work out to make things like the C4 detonations and such more satisfying with the doors, the way our rocket hits are. Ah, wonderful. Anywho, let's jump out of here and talk about what else is going on. Yo! So there you are. Doors, finally. Well, just the beginning of them, really. There's still so much to do. In fact, most of the time that I spent on them this past week was about sort of migrating the earlier structure I had for them that worked, but was set up in such a way that making a second door was going to be an error-prone, inconsistent, difficult process. And so a whole bunch of what I did was about restructuring the hierarchy to allow me to make variants of doors, because there's going to be different colors, but there's also going to be different types and different shapes in terms of like their paneling, where handles will go. There's going to be different types of hardware for them. And so I tried to abstract as much of that out as possible, abstract out a bunch of the sort of decal and damage configuration out to sort of shared asset files. Once again, all just it's building one door, well, is still hard, but building, 10 is, I wanted to make it so that it was 3x as hard and not 10x as hard, sort of thing. So that is what a lot of that work went into. There's still a lot to do, as I was showing off, in terms of getting the damage behavior exactly how I want. Obviously, there's some sort of design questions to ask, like, do I make it so that, do I explicitly try to prevent the player from, like, sticking their hand through the door and operating something from the other side? But if I do that, will it also be the sort of thing that if someone reaches around to grab a door handle, the way you could in real life around the actual door, because that breaks line of sight, now you can't do that interaction. So I need to figure out exactly how to handle a whole bunch of that. So, but this is just to give you a first fun thing to play with and blow up and such, and there'll be more for it soon. Beyond that, the other reason why I needed to get a patch out this week is that I needed, before the modders just run wild with it, there was some sort of infrastructural work involving the item spawner that I needed to tune and tweak, and while I was changing things, I went in, I fixed a bunch of metadata, I fixed a bunch of things about the way the take and hold spawns sort of related magazines that should make it so things like the potato gun and the subsistence crossbow and things, when they spawn and take and hold, actually spawn with everything you need. So yeah, and then just some little assorted fixes. So not a huge one this week in terms of other things, but getting the doors ready for today, even just in this form, was a bit of a photo finish. So if they just catastrophically break for you when something happens, apologies, they have not been tested much. So basically last night and this morning. So, but it will continue to be my project over the course of the month and onward. As for the month of December in general and Meatmas and such, I'm not doing sort of like a formal Meatmas event that is lasting the entire month. This year, I'm exhausted. We just did update 100. But what I am going to be sort of dropping is I'm just going to be calling them probably patches for the month of December to update 100. That is largely just going to be like tuning up the metadata, getting more of the tutorials in for the item spawner. There'll be a whole bunch more of those next week, because my goal basically is before the big Christmas sales rush, which, because we don't go on sale as a game, we don't get a huge bump in the Steam sale before Christmas, but then once everyone gets their HMDs, everyone buys the game on Christmas, sort of thing. So I have till roughly December 24th to do what I really want to do, which is actually sub out the old item spawner entirely, so that new users actually have instructions for playing the game right in front of them when they're playing it for the first time. Don't worry, modders, other folks, you're still going to be able to like spawn the old spawner from the new spawner and like swap it out if you need to access something. There probably will be a little bit of a transition period where that's the only way you'll be able to access the vault, because it's more important. Like if I have to be like, get the vault done by Christmas or get all the tutorials in by Christmas, I'm going to get all the tutorials in by Christmas, because that's going to help new users the most with the game, and it will lower my new user support burden for the weeks following the holiday dramatically. So yeah, but that's basically just what the sort of goal is. And then in terms of other stuff this month, in addition to the doors, I'm going to be getting a bunch of other explosive objects and systems into the game that are related to doors, some of which I have teased, because they use shared systems. And I want to make sure that as I'm editing things to make the doors work, I'm not breaking other ththings like the furniture and stuff. So some of those are going to be going in and finding their way into the item spawner. Yeah. What else? I think this. Oh, and next week, I'm not announcing it this week because this week is all about doors. But next week we are going to do another Meatmas holiday contest. It is absolutely goofball, and so the details of that will be announced next week. It'll be super fun. So, well, that just about does it, I think. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, playing with the doors, smashing the doors down, and blowing them up and such, and I'll see y'all soon. Peace.